to the first speaker, I think technology is making design more accessible in terms of rather than being lines and notes on a plan, it's actually something you can see. But what's happening in terms of across sectors? Because it seems strange to me that your mobile phone can tell you that you've arrived somewhere, but as you mentioned about utility strikes, why can't site vehicles tell you you're approaching an overhead cable or you're about to excavate, where there's buried utilities? How do we encourage more collaboration across the sectors? I think that's where we're not using technology enough, I think.
I mean, the example I gave with tackling those specific type of things, I was stood in a VR box. I could see everything around me. I just had literally an Xbox controller and I was navigating around the project. I was able to see above ceiling stuff, and it's with technology, it's making that investment. Obviously there's a cost involved, and you need that resource as well. So it's not just buy the solution and it's just going to work by itself. That's never going to be the case. I think across sectors, I think it is just a matter of time. We're seeing, like I said, pockets across the industry, primarily with like high rise, with vertical stuff is where, that's where primarily my experience is, and that's where I'm seeing it. But I'm not too sure actually. I mean, it is a difficult question. So yeah. Yeah.
Is everybody aware of the Adept Live Labs project that's going on? Yeah. So I think that's a fantastic example, an opportunity for our sectors to collaborate and learn and innovate. And across the areas that are taking part in that, the whole output is to share across the Adept family of the outputs of that project. Again, we've got pockets of excellence going on within our sector, is my belief. For example, we've got the exoskeletal being used on our Forth Road Bridge as VR as well for surveys, as well as drone, all that sort of stuff going on. And I know that there's a lot of that going on around the industry. But again, sort of coming back to that collaboration and the use of projects like Adept, which is the first of its kind, and let's remember that, and we can grow from that as a sector. But also, perhaps, as I mentioned, about looking at something like a highway sector deal where we come together collaboratively, all of us, and instead of doing pockets of excellence, join the dots. So if we're doing a innovation project on gully cleansing, as an example, I found 4 different projects in my own business where I can join the end-to-end journey up. Imagine if we do that across our sector and how many people are involved in doing that individually in pockets of excellence, and we can bring it out and raise the whole bar for the whole service. So I think we're in exciting times, personally.
I can see all this around new projects and big projects and all those because I get all that. The bit that I struggle with is that the Romans never had digital technology, and so an awful lot of the stuff that I've got that I'm looking after is not in a system anywhere. And I just wonder how you think we get past that challenge where I still have stuff buried under the ground that the utilities have that they don't even know where it is, let alone telling me where it is. I don't have we did a cloud point survey when I was at Oxfordshire of our estate and found 20% more unlit signs than we thought we had. And all those sorts of things. I just wonder how we get over that hurdle of the kind of the historic data.
Yeah, I don't have the answer either, but it's definitely a challenge. The quality of data coming in. You think it was only probably 5 or 6 years ago that we introduced handheld technologies into our operatives on the highway sector, as an example. So we've started to collate again more data. How accurate that data is could be questioned, absolutely. But again, for me, it's the blend of skills that we have within our sector. It's not just all about technology and data. It's about bringing that together with the civil engineers, with the asset managers, with the QSs. Us bean counters do have some value to add every now and then. And how we work through that together. And again, it brings it back to collaboration. There is no single answer to it. The only way that we can do this, in my opinion, is together. No single organisation, no authority, no individual can do this alone. But the opportunities are there. But it is a blend of the old and the new. in the sense of infrastructure. I don't mean people.
Yeah, completely agree. I think actually we can't go back in time, obviously, and I think the human element's always going to be a factor. Even with technology, it's not just going to run by itself unless we get replaced by robots. But it's essentially, I think if we continue to do what we're doing now, that historical data is going to obviously start growing itself. So
we potentially, coming together as an industry, if we can, all work together and use all those inputs that we've got, as David said, there is just so much information, but we're all doing so many different things currently that are probably going towards the same end goal, but we need to bring that all together somehow.
What actually do we need to do to get our industry to understand where the benefits of the digital world are and the technology world are? Because it's clear that if we're bottom of the league, we've got to get, I'm not saying we need to be at the top of the league, because I don't think we ever will be, but what's stopping our industry from really grasping this and understanding it?
I think it is just this cultural thing, to be honest, and it starts off very much at a project level. But I think it has to be driven from the very top. So those senior managers, the directors at the top of the business, they need to drive it down. I was at Carillion where, in fact, we were doing quite a lot of innovative things, and I'm seeing with some companies now that they're still lagging way behind. So I think it just needs to be driven from the very top. I think it's great, even with the setup that you've got here as well. Doing this kind of stuff is just needed. There's a lot of sort of tech evangelists and whatnot out there, and I think it's just going to grow eventually. There's no sort of quick fix, unfortunately. I don't think I think keep it simple with even stuff like just at that project level with those operational guys, just having technology to help them do what they want to do and need to do. And then I think eventually it will get to a stage where it just becomes the norm.
I'd say funding is an interesting area at the moment. Is that we don't have R&D budgets in our worlds. As I mentioned earlier, the ADEPT project is the first of its kind I'm aware of in local roads. That type of thing is going to be needed to stimulate change. The culture of working together, again, in a trusting environment. Let's be honest, in our sectors that trust comes and goes. We're in a difficult period again over the last few years around Carillion types of situations that sort of evaporate trust within different sectors. And I think to be brave and make decisions and do things where you're not afraid to fail, that old cliche when you're talking about innovation, you've got to be doing it in a trusting environment and you've got each other's backs. And, again, perhaps coming together as a sector and doing it together is the way that we can do that and achieve that, so that nobody on their own is sort of being hung out to dry.
We've covered the highway sector deals a bit, so I was wondering if you could it'd be good to get all views from everyone up on the panel, just to kind of sell the case for a highway sector deal. And then maybe we could put a question to everyone here. Put your hands up if you think we need a sector deal, and don't put your hand up if you don't think we need a sector deal. So sell the case, and then we'll see what the audience thinks.
So I see it as an opportunity, as I say, for all of us together throughout the whole chain within the sector to come together, looking at the 5 pillars within the industrial strategy and understanding what we can do to make a difference across all of those. You've heard about the skills gap as an example today. What can we do together that we better together than we could do individually? I think a lot. So when you're looking at things like apprenticeships, diversity, etc., again, pockets of excellence across our industry, both client side, service provider side, etc. If we can bring that together through a sector deal where we've all got common goals, common outputs and objectives, I personally think that we will be a lot stronger together. And it's a way of harnessing all of our skills and expertise to deliver that end game. And I won't go through all 5 pillars, but that was just to give you one example.
Yeah, again, great question. I think there's been a couple of examples of projects. Project 13. Has anyone come across that? Yeah. So I think with examples that are being set, such as Project 13, it's again, I'm kind of not answering the question, but I've been a politician. But I think essentially the way I see it is the whole sort of how procurement is at the moment. It just needs to change big time. And I think the way Project 13 have done stuff is probably the way forward, actually. Yeah.
Personally, fairly limited experience of the highways industry, but in the relatively short time I've been involved, I just endorse 100% what David said there. I think together we are really strong as an industry, and there's so much new opportunity going forward. And I think if we all come together under a deal, I think it would be an amazing thing to happen.
Back to the question, Justin, do you want to?
Just a show of hands, should we have a sector deal then? Is it something that CIHT should make the case for?
Only one hand, come on. Come on, hands. Show of hands, yeah. I think you got your answer there. Adam, I just want to ask a quick question on CLC, and obviously it's very thought-provoking, the presentation this morning about what the potential for CLC is. Have you actually had much interest from other industries or other sectors in developing that whole theory? Because I mean, to me, that has unlimited potential.
Yeah, we have had interest from other sectors. What we're aiming at the moment is we've kept it fairly close to our chests, and in terms of we need to make some more traction. It's relatively early days. We want to make some significant changes and improvements in things like safety, customer delivery. We want to embed the training more into our people, but it's certainly not only pan industry, it goes across all sorts of other sectors potentially as a concept, and it's something that we will look to promote when the time's right. But if anyone today's interested in some more further details about it, I can leave my email address with people. If they want to email me, I can then come back to you individually, give you access to see what a flavour of the e-learning opportunity that's there, and then we can have discussions around that.
We've heard some really interesting presentations today, quite varied, and certainly stimulating. There are two sort of things I'll take away, and that is about people and about systems. The importance of leadership and culture and trust in changing the behaviours and improving the relationships that we have. The importance of defining the values that are very key to collaboration, and the importance of the focus on the customers, which, as I said in my introduction, is to me a really key area that we should be addressing. But also, and perhaps we might automatically go there, but I think the presentations today have demonstrated the importance of process, the importance of management systems and technology, digital applications and data that actually support collaboration and make it work better. Getting the procurement right, and all the tools that support that collaboration, and CLC being one, but not just that as a tool, but because that obviously has the real potential to improving the social value within our communities, and that would really be an excellent way of demonstrating why collaboration is so important. So some really good stuff. Thank you very much, guys, all of you, for speaking. Oh, and by the way, the importance of ants. Nearly forgot the ants. Never underestimate the value of ants. Thank you.